Do you find it hard to charge for your services? Do you find it hard to talk about money with your clients, or even feel uncomfortable receiving money in exchange for your work? If any of these things resonate with you, you love this interview and also my conversation with my guest. Hi, Liesel, welcome.
Hello, Charo. So good to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy that you're here because, well, Liesel, let me tell you, this is such a loaded topic that I truly believe it deserves at least one, conversation, but probably more than one.
Yes, true. We can talk about this for a long time. There's a lot in it.
Yeah, okay. Well, first, let me read you Liesel's bio because otherwise I will forget many of the wonderful things she does. So let me go and read your bio here. So, Liesel helps sensitive souls to build quiet confidence. She helps them to work through their blocks and fears that stop them and find and embrace their true, authentic strengths. Some of her favorite tools are EFT, emotional freedom techniques, or tap-in, and CliftonStrengths. Used together, they provide a solid foundation for any introvert who wants to make a difference in the world in their unique, quiet way. And Lisa, let me tell you, I love that solid foundation because I don't know if you know, but I'm a former architect, so anything solid and foundations just resonates with me.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. Thank you.
Okay, so Lisa, why do you think it is so hard for us, and I include myself, sensitive entrepreneurs, to charge for our services? What's going on?
It is a loaded topic, Charo, like you mentioned before. So before I go into individual details, I'm going to just quickly share three principles that I work with in my work. That's the overarching reasons or the foundations for why we struggle with it. So one of them is our uniqueness. So even though that we have this common ground of sensitivity, and many sensitive people that I hear struggle with charging for their services or talking about money, there is that commonality of sensitivity. Each of us is still 100% unique, and therefore for each of us it may be a slightly different flavor of why it is difficult for us, right? So that's just the one principle. And the other principle is that I work with is our beliefs in our subconscious mind. Has a lot to do with how we view the world and how we function in the world, how we behave in the world, how we think, feel, and behave. And those subconscious beliefs, most of them are formed by the age of 7 or so. We grow up in certain households, and there's a certain environment, there's backgrounds, there's all the things that we absorb from the family that we grow up in. And our families can have beliefs like it's better to give than to receive, or money is the root of all evil, or
Oh, that
just
one.
money is evil, right?
So true.
Um, or money is hard to come by. If we grew up in a home where money was scarce, sort of by just being in that environment, we start believing things like that money is hard to come by. And so that sort of then starts tying into the part of our sensitivity that I'm going to talk about in a moment, is we also have, as sensitive people, not only do we have beliefs about money, we also have strengths. That's the other part of my work, is I help people to notice what is great about them, what is already right with them. Because usually when we talk about this subject, it's all about the problem, what do we need to fix around this, all of that. But I also work with people's strengths, and that part is so exciting to me, is we also have certain behavior patterns because they are our strengths, because that's really it. Our strengths are things that are as easy for us as breathing. It just comes naturally and easily to us. Now, for sensitive people, some of the strengths that we have is we care deeply about other people,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
We notice their emotions, and their emotions have a very big impact on us because we are sensitive. We have a sensitive nervous system that may react in stronger ways to other people's emotions and their thoughts and feelings and behavior than somebody who is not as sensitive. About 20% of the population is very sensitive, has a sensitive nervous system. They're born with it. It's not something that we're ever going to go like curing or fixing. We have a sensitive nervous system, and it's a beautiful thing. So
Yeah,
on the
part
one
of
hand,
our design. We
it's part
come,
of our
it's our
design.
default settings. We come with that.
Correct, Jara. We come with that. And then with those experiences we have in childhood, often it can be heightened if we grew up in a difficult childhood. It can
Mm-hmm.
be heightened even more. And so it is our work to work with it a little bit, but we won't be able to, like you say, it's a default setting. We can tweak it. We can turn it down when we need to. We can manage it, but we're not going to press the delete button for it to be gone forever.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to work with it and really make the most of it. And that's going to be um, beneficial for us and for the people that we want to serve. So the other part of our sensitivity is the one part is we care deeply about others.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, when we have a sort of a situation where, for instance, a person comes to us, we want to serve them, and they have trouble with money, our caring nature is going to want to give this person something, even for free or at a lower price because we feel what's going on in their body. If you're an empath as well, we feel the emotions very, very strongly. So there is just so much under the surface of this topic, Chora. I do believe we can talk about it for days, but that
Yeah.
is some of what's going on, and it's not a it's not a simple thing. There's a lot under the surface. I think another one is, as sensitive people, we are deeply aware of what somebody else needs. There's one of the
Uh-huh.
strengths that I work with that's called individualization. We can tap into, we can just feel into it. What is it that we sense what the other person needs. We go, as sensitive people, usually we go through life helping other people anyway for free, right? We have a caring, sensitive nature that want to help
Yeah.
people and want to make a difference in the world.
It
And we would
just
do that
comes
for free.
naturally. Yeah. So true.
Correct. It's a strength that comes as easily as breathing. Now we've got the added complexity of adding a business on top of that thing that's already there.
Yeah.
So can you see how that's just like it's almost like they pull in
Yeah.
opposite directions. Like, I just want to help people. I would do that anyway, whether I had a business or not. Now this business thing comes on top and it says now you have to charge money for it.
Mm-hmm.
And usually sensitive people care more about the person than about the money.
So true. Totally. Yes. And I can
So
totally relate to that. I can I can connect to some experiences in me. Like, for example, trying to avoid conflicts. I remember when I was still studying at the university, I was teaching this girl drawing, technical drawing lessons, geometry and all that, no, but with drawing. And I used to go to her house and we had a time slot, like an hour and a half. And her mom would go to do the shopping while I was teaching this girl, and she would never be back on time. So I had two choices: either teach her longer or stop and stay there, or ask her for more money. It was such a conflict to me. But I have to
yes,
admit, I didn't handle that situation in a way that I would have loved to, you know. I didn't know how
yes,
to solve, because it made me feel so bad to create that conflict. I just wanted to get along well with them. But at the same time,
exactly.
it felt unfair, like she was not respecting my boundaries. So,
Yes,
ooh, that feeling inside, all the things you've
yes.
been connected, mentioning, it reminds me of that fear inside, like, oh, it's wrong. So,
Yes. So we definitely we sometimes we like look, I'm also sensitive and I have the exact same troubles. I've worked through layers of it, but there's many more layers to come that I know that I'm going to be working through. And so each time I work through a layer, I realize there's certain patterns in us that are very, very strong. And
Mhm.
to make them wrong, to blame them or judge, you know how people can just easily say to us, oh, you have no boundaries. You know, they make it sound like such a bad thing. Like
Yes.
we're like we're terrible people.
Oh, yes.
Right? We can end up feeling very ashamed or blamed or,
Mm.
you know, I'm just this people pleaser. You know, we care about people, so let's look at what's right about it.
Mhm.
Also, instead of just what's wrong about it and just do all the fixing and all the, you know, you're just a bad person for not getting this right yet at the age of 50 or whatever, which is where I am. Um, let's look at what's the true thing behind it is we have this amazing ability to tune into what people need.
Mhm.
So yes, we need to be able to add skills to that and work with, like you mentioned, the fear of conflict that can ensue, the fear of the risk that we run that that person may not like me anymore if I speak up, right? That's basically what's underneath is like
Yes.
everybody needs to like me. So I'll just act in ways that will make that happen and I'll shoot myself in the foot or I'll deny my own needs so that somebody else can have their needs. That's usually very much where it's coming from. And we can work with all of those patterns
Mm.
and help them to get back into more balance.
Uh-huh.
It may not be possible to get all of that to just go away and turn into a completely new person because we come with certain propensities and we've practiced it 50 million times.
Yeah, so true. And in a minute, I'll ask you how we can work with that. But I've really loved the refrain you've done. Like, let's look at from also from the positive. What's behind it? And
Mm,
because I truly think that if you just look at the world how it is right now, all the conflict out there, and it's truly a gift to be somebody who doesn't like conflict. Of course, as you said, we need skills, how to handle that mm, different viewpoint, or how to honor the interest of everyone involved. But that unwillingness to get into conflict, fast as some people do, it's a gift. It could avoid things from, escalating and becoming riots and so huge problems that we can see around us. So I really appreciate you brought that in the conversation, that it's so important to honor um, those things as well for the good things they are, not just criticize them and feel ashamed,
yes,
for being like that.
yes,
So I really appreciate
yes.
that. Yeah.
I'm glad it was valuable, Chari. It's one of the things that actually changed my life when I heard about my strengths about 5 years ago is this pattern I had of running away from conflicts. I always felt blamed, criticized, judged, and I blamed myself as well. Like, why
Mhm.
can't I just get over this? Because lots of my life would just work better if I could just go into, towards the conflict and sort it out and then come out the other side. But then I heard about this strength. It's called harmony. It's a strength that we
Uh-huh.
have the ability to create win-win situations
Hmm.
where we see the consensus, where we see where we are similar, where we can create something for both of us to win. And
Mhm.
it's so if we turn it around and look at that ability, even in this conversation about money, is like how can we then create a win-win for you and for me? But to put myself out of the equation the whole time and make myself less and the other person more is not win-win. So we need to really, you know, yes, learn some skills perhaps to create the win-win, that we're
Mhm.
not so afraid of the conflict that we don't also be kind to us. We also need kindness towards us, to us, for ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. So please share a bit about those skills. What can we do to decrease the intensity of those uncomfortable feelings in us?
Yeah, it's a really important thing. So in the bio you mentioned I work with EFT, and that is one of the tools that I believe in so much, Jara, to help us to minimize the fear. So can I talk a little bit about EFT? Is that
Tease,
okay?
tease, yeah.
So EFT is short for emotional freedom techniques, and many people these days might know it as tapping also.
Mhm.
And it was created in the early 90s by a Stanford engineer. I also love that solid foundation of it's coming actually from a science person. And he took a few different things and put them together in this technique called EFT. And so it is a way, it's like a tapping technique that we tap on certain points on the body, on stress relief points. And what it does is it sends calming signals to the amygdala, to the limbic brain. That's the part of our brain that is that part that says, oh, don't do this. It's going to create conflict, or it's not going to have a good outcome, or somebody's going to be not liking me anymore, or they won't be able to afford me and I'm going to feel rejected. All of that stuff. That's sitting in the limbic system. It's a subconscious part of the brain. And so when you do this tapping while you're thinking about this problem or the feeling that you have, it sends calming signals to the amygdala. It helps it to calm down those feelings. And then we can act or behave in ways that are more beneficial to us and the other person. So it helps us to just think clearer about our problem so that we can take the appropriate action. So we're not cowering in fear or lashing out or having an inappropriate emotional response. It helps us to just think about it more calmly, get into action in an appropriate way. So that's what
Mhm.
EFT does for us. It's
Mhm.
incredibly effective.
Mhm. Is it safe for everybody to try? It's something that anybody can do, or do we need to have some, caveats or cautions in mind?
It's a great question, and I'd say there's also layers to that answer. In
Mm-hmm.
itself, it's designed as a self-help technique, so anybody can try. It's absolutely safe. There's nothing about the process itself that's unsafe. Absolutely nothing. It's a beautiful process. Anybody can try. We can teach it to children, to people of 90 years old. There
Mm-hmm.
are a few caveats. If we're working with trauma, it's
Mm-hmm.
better not to try it on yourself. Go to a certified practitioner who's been trained how to keep it safe and how not
Mm-hmm.
to let you go into overwhelm and, dive into the trauma again, be re-traumatized. So in that case, definitely go to a professional.
Mm-hmm.
And also there are certain other things, like I would be careful about working with somebody with epilepsy, or
Uh-huh.
if you are pregnant. There are certain of the points that I would say just leave out. So in those cases, be careful, but in general, anybody can try it. There's so much free information available, and in general, it's an incredibly safe and, I want to say, forgiving technique. Like, even if you think you're doing it wrong, it can still do amazing things for you.
Oh, wonderful. So for anybody watching this interview who follows into those categories you've mentioned, maybe you just want to keep watching but don't practice. But for the rest of us, Lisa, would you please give us a taste of it? Okay, so let's do something with
Yes,
it.
absolutely. Let's do that. That'll be fun. Yes. So how we work with EFT is we have to be tuned into the problem
Mm-hmm.
so that we can use some of the feelings that we experience when we think about the problem in our tapping process, and so that we can measure the before and after. So Chara, let's do this together. So if you think about charging, and I'm going to ask our listeners the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
think about how it feels when you want to name a price. And it's maybe a little bit out of your comfort zone, or a lot out of your comfort zone. And you're going to say this price to somebody. And what is the feeling that comes up in your body then? What is it for you, Chara, if you
Ooh. I feel anxious.
feel anxious?
Yes.
And where do you feel that anxiety in the body? Where does it
I can
sit?
feel it around, the top of my stomach. It kind of contracts a little bit.
It
And also a little
contracts.
bit
Okay.
here in the throat. Huh, interesting.
Mm, right. I can totally identify with that. And I want our listeners to also think about exactly where is it in their body when I think about this charging too much, or somebody's going to be angry about this amount. And then we also just give it a number out of from 0 to 10. So 10 is the worst this feeling can be in your stomach. 0 is nothing. Where is it at the moment for you?
It's at a 6.
at a 6. Okay,
Oh,
so we're going to use all of that and just keep it really, really simple and just focus on this feeling in the body. And we're going to do one round of tapping. So everybody can just follow along with us, say the words we say, do what we do, and then we'll measure again afterwards.
yeah, okay.
So, Jara, if you would join me, let's do this together. So we tap on the side of the hand. We're going to say a sentence 3 times. So just follow along. Even though I've got this anxiety in my stomach,
Even though I have this anxiety in my stomach,
when I think about charging,
when I think about charging,
I can accept that this is how I feel today.
I can accept that that's how I feel today.
Even though I get this anxiety in my stomach,
Even though I get this anxiety in my stomach,
when I think about charging that amount,
when I think about charging that amount,
I can accept that this is how I feel today.
I can accept that that's how I feel today.
And even though I get this anxiety in my stomach,
And even though I get this anxiety in my stomach,
when I think about charging that amount,
when I think about charging that amount.
ooh, yeah, you can feel it, right?
Yes.
When we think about that amount.
Yes.
Yeah. I accept that this is how I feel today.
I accept that this is how I feel today.
Good. And now we're going to do a round of tapping through all the points. So follow along, tap with me. This anxiety in my stomach.
This anxiety in my stomach.
And then we go to the eyebrow points. This anxiety in my stomach.
This anxiety in my stomach.
Side of the eye points. This anxiety in my stomach.
This anxiety in my stomach.
And our listeners might notice this beautiful sigh that Chara just made. That's a sign of relaxation in the nervous system. Good. This anxiety in my stomach about that amount.
This anxiety in my stomach about that amount.
Yeah. That amount is not going to make the person happy.
That amount, it's not going to make the person happy.
Yeah. And the chin point. And I feel anxious when I think about that.
And I feel anxious when I think about that.
This anxiety in my stomach about charging that amount.
This anxiety in my stomach about charging that amount.
And then we tap under the arm on the side of the body. All this anxiety about charging too much.
All this anxiety about charging too much.
And then I like to use the inner wrist point that goes to all the fingers. All this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
About charging money for my services.
About charging money for my services.
Good. And then rest the arms. Take a nice deep breath in and out.
Feels so much better. I could feel the shift when it took place, and it was feels so much better. It really creates a shift in how we feel. It increases the relaxation. It's an amazing tool. And I also want, I said this privately to you, but I also want to say it publicly that, well, you know, my website is Tapping Your Purpose. I started doing tapping many years ago, and I completely left it, you know. Thanks to you, I reconnected with tapping again. And I connected with that excitement and that, you know, practice again with tapping. So thank you from the, you know, the bottom of my heart.
Oh, Jara, it's such a privilege and pleasure. It was so great to be able to tap with you. And yes, I completely know the feeling of reconnecting with something and feeling really passionate again. And tapping is that amazing. It is that amazing. Yes. So just to finish this round off is for our listeners. So just check in again in your body. If it was a 6 before, what is your number now? How do you feel? We may need to repeat this a few times, and that's completely okay. That we, you know, we've had this problem for a long time. So a few rounds of tapping can just really help us to calm down so that we can say our price, or so that we can start feeling better about just charging in general. So, yeah.
Yeah, if I personally connect to that number, it would be around 1.5, not even a 2.
Oh, wow.
It has decreased a lot. Yeah.
That's a huge shift, Jara. That's
It is.
fantastic.
It is. It is.
And when we come from that calmer place, it's just like we're just doing a normal thing now to state our price instead of, I wonder what's the reaction going to be, right? So
Yeah.
now it's normal and it's easier to take the actions we want to take.
Yeah, it gives us access to different parts of the brain where we can come up with better solutions for everybody involved. So yeah, it's wonderful.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Liesel. So
Welcome.
if anybody wants to know more about these, and you teach classes, I've been with you in the inner critic course. I love that one. You really helped me to quiet that voice of the inner critic in me, just, beating me up because I wasn't doing what that other part of me was telling me, you need to do. So if people
Yes.
want to get in touch with you, and you also you're preparing, like it's kind of a secret still, but you're preparing a class on this topic, on charging money for your work. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, how can they do it?
Thank you. My website is called savvyselfgrowth.com. And if you want to hear more about when I'm going to teach this course and the dates and times of it, it's usually a live class. You can go to the web page that's where you can subscribe to my newsletter. So it's very simple, savvyselfgrowth.com/newsletter, and sign up there and you'll get the details in your inbox as soon as I announce it in the next few weeks or so. It's usually the classes are quite fun. We're a smallish group, between 10 and 15 people or so, and all usually sensitive people who understand each other, who go through life in the same way. So it's very, it's beautiful people that come to those classes, and I'm very grateful to say that.
And if I may add, it's a very safe place to be. All the times I've been with you, it felt like a place where I could be honest and be open. So the work really, EFT really works because you're honest. You're not trying to, and that's very important to me.
Yes, yes. I love that you mentioned that. That is one of the things that is the most beautiful for me about EFT is we're not pushing away anything. In fact, we're bringing it up. We're saying, come, let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And we add the tapping while we're being honest about it. And then it magically just dissipates.
Yeah, so true. Thank you, Liesel. Do you
Yeah.
have any final thoughts or key idea that you want to leave us with before we wrap up?
Absolutely. I want to say that this process of working with our fears about charging and with all the sensitivity stuff and that, it is a journey. It's not an event. It's not like I'm going to do this one round of 5 minutes of tapping and then it's all gone. It's a journey because there's many, many layers of it. And when we walk a journey, Chara, I think it's so important for us to be kind with ourselves, to have compassion for ourselves, to understand that there are many different layers to this story, and for us to just keep being patient and bringing in compassion for all the layers that we need to work through. And that is, I think, one of the best tips that I can give in any kind of change work we do, because this is change work. It's not comfortable to change. It's easier to go back to the default. So we may, on this journey, change a few things and then we fall back to how we were, and then we change again and then we fall back a little bit, and all of that is okay if we can just have compassion for whatever is happening on our journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's my biggest
Wonderful,
tip.
Liesel. Thank you so much. So I leave that as the final, comment. Use compassion because change is difficult, and with compassion we can really do it and be there for it. Thank you so much, Liesel. And thank you everybody for watching. Here's Cheryl from Tapping Your Purpose signing off. Thank you. Till next time.